Post-game reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Jeffsky on the baseline. Pick out the Malachi Leones for three, and he banked it home. A big shot that happened earlier today that kept Azubuike from a loss.
All right, ugly night for the Warriors, really, after the middle of the second quarter, as the Warriors end up losing 115 to 101. Another night for the Sickos on this Sickos-only road trip for the Warriors as they drop to 1-3 now with 2 games to go on the trip. Warriors also a season worst now, 4 games under 500, 33 and 37. That's game number 70 for Golden State. So just 12 games to go. 2 more on the road at Atlanta tomorrow, as it'll be the potential for the Jonathan Kuminga revenge game, as the Hawks resting Kuminga up tonight to be ready to roll in the second of a back-to-back for that one. Who's going to play for the Warriors tomorrow night in Atlanta? I mean, who the hell knows at this point? You would not at least project Kristaps Porzingis to play, because in addition to, look, the Warriors got off to a good start in this one. We'll get into some of that. Porzingis injured, a season-high 27 turnovers for the Warriors. It winds up being a blowout in a game that they led by 9 in the second quarter. Porzingis with this lower back issue, so we'll keep you posted on that here between now and 9 o'clock as we welcome you in. It is Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR, the number on this Friday night, 415-808-5627. Warriors again lose to the Pistons by that final of 115 to 101. They lose Porzingis, so we'll keep you posted on what Steve Kerr has to say about that, as he ended up kind of grabbing at his lower back in the first half. Would he come back out for the second half? He didn't. Again, not going to be playing in back-to-backs anyway, so kind of a wasted night, honestly, for Kristaps Porzingis, only playing 11 minutes, 1 for 5, wasn't particularly good in the time that he was out there. And I think this two games in a row, really, against a couple of quality opponents in the Eastern Conference that Porzingis, up until the point at which he was injured with this new issue now. Of course, we talked about the calf coming in and then the mystery illness, and now it's a back issue. But that's 2 games in a row that even Porzingis, I would say, didn't really play well against some of the better teams, even before he wound up being kind of done for the night. So we'll get you an update on Porzingis. You got Guy Santos leaving early and going to the locker room and then able to come back. You've got GP2 riding the bike, which is something that is a semi-regular occurrence for him. And honestly, the Pistons down the stretch there, I kind of put it out on social media. I thought, just get out of that freaking arena without a fight breaking out, because it felt like the physicality of Detroit as the game had turned into a blowout, that, one little cheap shot or hard foul that gets deemed a cheap shot, and all of a sudden there could be a full-blown melee going on, and then you wind up maybe missing some other people here when the Warriors are already dreadfully shorthanded to begin with, and continue to kind of be dropping like flies on this trip and going up against a team in the Pistons that I thought, got hit early. It was the quintessential with the Warriors up at the end of the first quarter, 26-21. Pistons kind of without Cade Cunningham, taking it a little easy, thinking that they could just kind of roll the balls out and show up and put this thing on cruise control, even without their team MVP and a guy that would have been, I think, in legitimate conversation, injury notwithstanding, for the overall MVP in the NBA in Cade Cunningham. So Warriors get off to a couple of bad pass turnovers early from Draymond Green. This was a bad night for Draymond Green in his home area. No points, minus 15, 6 assists, 4 turnovers, a couple of them just right off the bat. Only ends up playing 22 minutes. And, this is one of those games that continue to kind of show the decline on the one hand of Draymond Green, and then also are made to look even worse by the fact that Draymond is out there without Steph and out there with, out a lot of other talent to kind of make up for the things that he doesn't do as well to begin with. And then on the nights where he doesn't have it, it's become more and more apparent that he just really doesn't have it. And so a couple of early turnovers there for Draymond. We mentioned Guy Santos going to the locker room. De'Anthony Melton, it felt in the first 4 or 5 minutes as if he was the only guy that showed up for the Warriors. At one point they were down 14-9 and De'Anthony Melton had the 9. So it was Pistons 14, De'Anthony Melton 9. The Warriors had 6 turnovers in the first 8 minutes of the game, and despite all of that, they were hanging around and ended up closing the first quarter on a 12-1 run. 7 turnovers in the quarter, and the Warriors still, because they were hitting threes at the beginning of this game and Detroit was not. Warriors hit 4 threes in the first quarter. They ended up hitting 8 in the first half. But this thing flipped it a big way in the second half with the Warriors after they were up 5 going to the second quarter. And we've seen this a few times lately where the Warriors will be right there in the game and or ahead at the beginning of a second quarter and then push that lead. And you're kind of wondering, all right, when are the Pistons going to wake up? And it took tonight for the Pistons, even without Cade Cunningham, to get down by 9. It was 43-34 in favor of the Warriors, and that was the moment where the Pistons, who had not been hitting anything, they started to hit a couple of threes. You had some bad Porzingis turnovers, that the one where he was just under the basket and falling out of bounds and just throws it up for grabs, and it just some momentum crushing type plays as the Pistons were flipping the switch and trying to make their run. It ends up being a 23-7 run in favor of the Pistons to go from down 9 at the worst point of the night for them and the best point of the night for the Warriors to up 7 at 57-50. You've got Porzingis with the lower back, again, goes to the bench, then the locker room. Would he come back? He was not out there to begin the third quarter. Malavi Leones was out there, and the Warriors found themselves just getting swallowed up in quarter number 3. Pistons outscored the Dubs 30-23 in that third quarter, and they had pushed it all the way up to 19 there. Warriors with over 20 turnovers by the end of the third quarter. And then starting the fourth quarter, it really tonight felt like the game was over. Felt like the game was over before the fourth quarter hit, and the Warriors didn't really do anything in the fourth quarter to make you think that there was any kind of compete left on this night. Kind of I would say an all systems fail for the Warriors, but they were up 9 at one point in the early, headed toward the mid point, right around the 7.5 minute mark of that second quarter. They were up 9 and they were hitting threes, and they wind up kind of going cold, turning it over. Pistons wake up a little bit. The physicality ramps up. The defensive intensity ramps up, and it ends up being a night where the Warriors end up with a season high in terms of turnovers. Looking at the final box, it looks like 26 turnovers, 32 points off of those turnovers. And you wind up looking at the box score at the end of the night, and you're trying to find, all right, who even played well for the Warriors in this game? I think LJ Cryer. Can I get an LJ Cryer? Can I get a De'Anthony Melton a little bit early on? Although Melton ended up being a game worst, minus 21, despite having the Warriors' first 9 points. So Melton really, after the hot start, went cold and wound up 5 for 14 with 4 turnovers himself. And I always say, who had the turnovers tonight? And for the Warriors, it was among the 26, led by Draymond with 4. Melton had 4. Guy Santos had 3. And really it was, everybody was, Cryer had a couple, Spencer had a couple, Richard had a couple, Yurtseven had a couple of turnovers. Porzingis had a couple as well. So it was really spread out, although led by Draymond and led by De'Anthony Melton. But in trying to look at some semblance of, all right, who played well, I think LJ Cryer with 10 points and knocking down 3 of 5 from 3 in 16 minutes is probably the lone bright spot, other than basically what DeAnthony Melton was able to do in the first 5-6 minutes of the game when he was scoring all of the Warriors' points there before they could kind of get on track and build what ended up being their largest lead of the night before the Pistons flipped the script when it was a 9-point game. So 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader as we welcome you in here. Going to be a busy weekend over the next 24 hours of Dubs coverage as well here on the Sports Leaders. We'll have Dubs OT for you tonight. We'll keep this thing going until about 9 o'clock. Joseph Dickinson is going to join us, kind enough to do so again from Detroit. That's going to be at 8:30 as he was on hand for the ball game tonight. So we'll get the latest on just everything going on surrounding the Warriors, the latest on the injury report. We'll get you your sounds at Dubs OT. We will certainly focus a little bit on the game ahead tomorrow as the Warriors are going to take on the Hawks. Hawks are down 24, so they're getting destroyed. Their 11-game winning streak is going to end tonight in Houston with the Rockets, who have been struggling of late, up 114 to 91. Kuminga didn't play in that one. Again, the Hawks getting cute with Kuminga having been out of late due to some injuries and come back, didn't play well, was out again. And so they're kind of load managing Kuminga at this point in his return and saving him up and making sure he's extra fresh to face the Warriors tomorrow in the ATL. So no Kuminga in that game for Atlanta, but he is expected to play tomorrow against the Warriors in what's going to be a real difficult game. The Hawks, despite the loss tonight, it's still going to be 11 of the last 12. And they've been rolling at home, and they've been rolling against bad teams also. Like they've made a lot of this hay against bad teams, and the Warriors right now are about as bad as it gets in terms of the talent that they're putting on the floor on a night in, night out basis with the group that they currently have here. No Steph Curry and no Jimmy Butler. The reevaluation day is coming for Steph tomorrow. That is the latest. It'll be the next 10 days after, the 10 days away from being 10 days away for Steph, going back to March 1st, right? It was 10 days away on March 1st, reevaluated on the 11th, going to be reevaluated again. Well, tomorrow is the 10th day. And so he will be reevaluated, although he has started to do some on-court work. Again, the Warriors with the schedule, and we talk about tomorrow being a difficult game. It's going to be the 5th game in 7 nights for the Warriors. It's going to be the 6th game in 9 nights for the Warriors as well, and already banged up. Again, don't want to focus too much on tomorrow because we're going to have just Dubs tomorrow from 10 until 11 here on the Sports Leader. And we will also have Dubs OT for you tomorrow as well after the Warriors take on the Hawks. But it does appear, I wouldn't be surprised if everybody that's even a little bit bagged up tomorrow didn't go in the second of the back-to-back. Again, not only the second of the back-to-back, but the 5th and 7 on the road. Detroit and Atlanta aren't exactly close. And so it truly would not surprise me. Again, this is just me speaking to it. If a lot of the guys that, you're not going to see Melton, I would think, tomorrow, although we'll see if Steve Kerr changes the tune. He did play only the 23 minutes. I know they'd been planning to try to figure out a way where Melton could play in some back-to-backs. I would imagine that's probably been tabled until the Warriors get back home at the beginning of April, coming off this trip, and they have a couple of home games, and they go to Denver, and they come back for a couple of home games, that five-game trip. And so I would imagine no Melton tomorrow. I would imagine no Porzingis tomorrow. And Steve Kerr telling the reporters, we'll just get this to you and play the cut from it coming up later. But Kerr telling reporters that the back for Porzingis tightened up, probably out tomorrow again, but doesn't think it's a serious thing as well for Porzingis. But again, I don't think he was playing. I mean, he wasn't playing tomorrow anyway. So I would imagine no Melton tomorrow. I would imagine no Porzingis tomorrow. I would imagine no Draymond Green tomorrow in the second of the back-to-back, especially how badly he looked tonight. I wouldn't be surprised. And look, I give Guy Santos a hell of a lot of credit. He's been one of the Warriors' best players here during this just absolutely brutal stretch of the last now, 6-7 weeks. But Guy dealing with Guy's over there riding the bike tonight, Kyle, with he's got the ice pack on, he's got the heating pad on. I mean, he's all wrapped up. Like I wouldn't be surprised. And Guy has been a true warrior for the Dubs here of late, but I wouldn't be surprised if Guy needed a night tomorrow. And tomorrow truly is going to be one of those where I think the Warriors are, it might be 9-10 healthy bodies in Atlanta in the fifth game in 7 nights. And you look at the standings, which we'll get into a little bit more deeply later on. Portland looked like they were going to have a hell of an opportunity to expand their lead in the play-in race. If you're focused on 9 versus 10, Portland had an 18-point lead in Minnesota. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but the Timberwolves at home against a lesser opponent kind of come out and don't have it and get down big before they actually start playing. Stop me if you've heard that before, Kyle. The Timberwolves got down 18 to Portland at home, and now they're rallying back to tie that game with 3:29 to go in Minneapolis. So again, stop me if you've heard that the Timberwolves have a woof woof special when they're going up against a lesser opponent. The Warriors got them in Minneapolis back in January based on just that on that Sunday afternoon. But the Timberwolves and the Blazers going down the stretch there. So you look at the standings and where things sit. Again, it's not like the Warriors are falling out of the play-in, but it becomes a scenario where they're going to be playing on the road versus playing at home in the 9-10 game. Can they somehow, if Steph comes back, get up to 8 and give themselves 2 chances to win 1 game to advance, give themselves a chance to maybe advance from 8 to 7. But the Warriors with the loss tonight, 33-37, and a game back of Portland. So we'll see what happens. Minnesota up a point with 3.5 to go at Target Center. So the Timberwolves are in good position to win that game now that they've come from 18 down. But they're in a battle against Portland, who would, with the victory, expand their lead over the Warriors to a 1.5 with the tiebreaker. So anytime you start to get 2-3 games plus a tiebreaker close to that level of separation in the standings this late of the season, and it does become a more significant advantage than maybe meets the eye. And so we'll keep everybody updated on that. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 Dubs OT with JD. We're off and running here on the Sports Leader. We do have the great Kyle Haar in the Daly City studios, getting ramped up here for a busy weekend as we stop for no one, Kyle. We got Dubs OT tonight. We got a 1-hour Just Dubs special tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll have Dubs OT with Kuminga versus Malavi Leones at 5 o'clock Pacific tomorrow. We'll have Dubs OT for you at about 7:30 in the game that I think is only going to matter to Jonathan Kuminga and maybe nobody else on the court tomorrow in Atlanta. But alas, they will play that game. And Kuminga rested up for it tonight. What's going on tonight, Kyle, before we get our first installment of Kyle's Clicks here on Dubs OT?
Yeah, doing good. I've watched a lot of March Madness the past couple days, and it kickstarted today. A 9:15 a.m. tip, Santa Clara, Kentucky. Oh my God. I mean, early contender for game of the tournament. But I feel so bad for Santa Clara. I thought they had it. They nailed a 3 to go up 3 with 2 seconds left just before the Kentucky guard pulled up from what I thought was about that Steph Curry range in 2016 in OKC and banked in a shot to go to OT and Kentucky won. But I mean, there's been some good games, JD, and I have my eyeballs on 4 different TVs right now.
No doubt. I've got 3 screens going right now. I do have one of them dedicated to my favorite NBA mix channel, just as that Trailblazers game kind of comes down to the wire. But I got a couple of more on. I got Kansas with Darren Peterson on right now. I got Miami and Missouri on right now. So if I look like I'm looking to this direction, if I'm looking here, if I ever look like I'm looking to my right a little bit.
If you're looking to your right, it's Miami, Missouri. But if you're looking to your left, it's
yes.
Who do we got? Cal Baptist and
if I'm
Kansas.
looking to my left, it's Portland, Minnesota. And if I'm looking straight ahead, it's Kansas and Cal Baptist. If I'm looking straight ahead at this particular point. All right, so Gene chiming in. I got a couple of these I bookmarked here from early. I know you've been bookmarking a few as well, so I'll hand it off to you in just a moment. But Gene McIntyre chiming in. So tomorrow, the JK revenge game, no Melton, no Zingis. I would imagine so. And again, we'll see. I think Guy's been a trooper. But, I mean, God, he did play 30 minutes tonight. Like, does Guy need a rest? I mean, how much help does Guy need here to kind of try to lead this team during this brutal stretch for the Warriors? But, yeah, it's one of these, like, one way. You know how sometimes you wind up in an argument with somebody where, like, they are, like, infuriated and they, like, want to just – I mean, they want to – they want to knock you out and just let you have it, right? Just tell you everything you've ever done wrong with them. But you're just like, bro, like, what's wrong? Like, I got no issue with you. And like, it feels like that's kind of tomorrow's game. That's the way tomorrow's game's lining up. It's like you've got the one dude who's ready to like drop 50. And we've seen the Hawks at different points try to pad the numbers in a couple of garbage time games against Atlanta or for Atlanta with Kuminga playing and so yeah, I don't know that the Warriors are like know they're in the fight tomorrow as much as the Hawks will be amped up and ready to roll there. The other one, we the champs, babe, it's a wrap, and I don't want to hear JD say, well, Steph's coming back, so love you, JD. I mean, look, what's a wrap? Like they're in the same position tonight that they were in Wednesday night, that they were in Monday night, that they were in 2 weeks ago tonight. I mean, they're going to be, and I've said this for a while, the 10 seed in all likelihood. And then Steph's going to come back at some point in the final 7, I would imagine, 7 to 10. And he's going to try to see if he can get to a point where he can carry them to a couple of play-in wins, a la Davidson in 2008, and then they're going to get wiped out by OKC. I mean, we can quibble, but I just, it was a wrap 2 months ago, but you still got to play the games, and it doesn't mean you need to quit. And I think given the position where the Warriors in, it doesn't make a lot of sense to quit. So I appreciate the LMFAO emojis in the comment there from We the Champs, but it's Steph's coming back and they're still probably going to lose in the play-in. Like maybe they come up with a Steph miracle and they can win in Portland and win in Phoenix or LA, and then they'll lose in 4 or 5 to OKC, and probably 3 or 4 of those games will be pretty ugly. So yeah, I think we're actually on the same page. We the champs, but I appreciate you there. Let's continue on. Joke's on you. Dre was also ass, to be fair. He probably looked around and was like, is this 2015? Where's everyone at? Yeah, Dre was terrible tonight. And it kind of, I mean, embarrassing when you think of, obviously his home area and being from Michigan. And I know he really does like going back there and playing against the Pistons and in front of family and friends that can make the trip and watch him. But tonight was another one of those nights where, I think you start, and this is kind of where I wanted to take the question at 808 KMBR and in the YouTube chat as well, Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. Like tonight's another one of those nights that basically for all of the different, the laundry list now of things that the Warriors need to do in the offseason to try to, forget about try to be a contender again, but just to be, competitive again at the above the play-in level. Because there is that sweet spot between, like, can this team avoid being a play-in team, even if they're not a contender? And I think a lot of people would take that. But you look at where Draymond is at, and tonight's another one of these nights where it looks even worse because Steph and Jimmy aren't out there. But it's another one of those nights that make it appear as if Draymond can't be a starting player next year. Like, Draymond's going to have to be a role player. He already is a role player, I think. We know. But can he even be a starter? And now do you have to add to the list of everything you need to do? Oh, yeah, Draymond can't start. He's got to be like a 20-minute-a-game guy off the bench that plays kind of a specialist role and will ramp it up on some of the nights where he's super motivated, a la Wemby, a la KD, a la, going up against LeBron, whoever it is. Kind of a special projects guy. And so I think that's where, if you're the Warriors, you kind of go, eesh, like, is there another level of this? And here's the other thing that it says to me. If he's going to be a $27 million player next year, I'm sorry. And Draymond, can say that this makes me, somebody that's speaking of him too harshly or a hater or whatever the hell he wants. But if Draymond Green's going to be a $27 million a year player next year, then I think it's in the Warriors' best interest to look to trade him in the offseason. And I know the early reports have been that the Warriors have been kind of unwilling to want to do a longer-term deal, even if it means less money. Spread the cap hit around, but make it 3 years, 3 and 40, 3 and 45, whatever it is, but knock the number for next year from 27 down to maybe in the 10 to 15 range, something like that, depending upon what the number winds up being. But tonight's one of those nights that make you think that, Draymond, like, how can you even plan to have a spot for him on this team at $27 million? Like, I'm finding it harder and harder to believe, with everything the Warriors have to do, that they can afford to just run it back with Draymond on the team at that number. He can be a beneficial, helpful player, but on the team at that number, I'd be looking to see, can I give him more? Can I give him new money? Can I give him 15 in new money over the next 2 years beyond this year and knock that number down to like 12 million? Knock that number, beneath 50% of what it currently is. And if not, then we'll see you later at that point. Jeremy Grant, by the way, 3-pointer to put Portland up on Minnesota, 106-104. Back and forth they go at Target Center. So the Timberwolves call a timeout with 21 seconds to go. And the Blazers have the 106-104 lead, with Portland trying to tie it or win it. So we'll keep you posted on that. 808 KNBR, Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open. Phone lines are open. More from the YouTube chat coming up. As the Warriors lose this one tonight, 115-101, we're talking about it. Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Hurry, way downtown. Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
So now Porzingis has gone back to the locker room. And so...
Yeah, I think Kalena was speaking for everybody there. Not another injury, not a different Porzingis injury. We might need to add that to our montage. Give me that again. What we got to do another Dubs OT after a shorthanded loss tonight, Kyle? I got to do more shows with Greg Silver next week. Man, Kalena could speak for everybody in a lot of ways. Back here on Dubs OT with JD, we kid. We're here for you. We love it. Wouldn't have it any other way, and that goes for my guy Greg, of course. So I've been filling in a lot for the great Greg Papa with Greg Silver. 3 days this week. We got 3 more days coming up next week, and the Dubs coverage isn't going anywhere either. Again, we're here for you the rest of the night up until 9. Warriors lose to Detroit, 115 to 101 is the final. It really wasn't closer than that. Warriors wasn't closer. It felt like more of a blowout in the second half. It didn't feel as close as the 14 would indicate. Warriors with season high in turnovers. The Pistons really ramped up the defense on Golden State in this one. And it is a final also from Minneapolis. The Blazers on the Jeremy Grant 3, they get a stop. They hit a couple of free throws, and they beat the Timberwolves 108 to 104. So might be time to start booking that flight for Portland. I think it is. That's going to have to go onto the to-do list, I think, for tonight or tomorrow. I was already going to do it like within the last couple of days, and I thought, you know what? Let's see how things go. Can the Blazers really just take that? It's time to book the flight for Portland on April the 14th with the game likely to be played on the 15th, the 9-10 Western Conference matchup. But the Warriors, they fall a game and a half now back of the Blazers, which means they're a game and a half up as far as also the draft lottery position. We'll get you a tankathon update coming up here between now and 9 o'clock as well. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, the number to jump in and join the conversation. Again, to me, the end of the second quarter was the game tonight. All the turnovers. Pistons, as we've talked about, woke up, started hitting shots. Again, rough night on the injury front for the Dubs. You've got Porzingis with this lower back thing. You've got Guy Santos, who was clearly bothered by some kind of leg injury, but kept playing through it. Malavi Leones got banged up late. GP2 was riding the bike, which he does regularly. And then it was a really rough night for Draymond Green, which is kind of leading me down the path to asking the question, can Draymond Green be a starter next year for this Warriors team? And I think even as an extension of that, and I apologize, Draymond, for this leading you to think that I or we here on Dubs OT are hating, because we are not. But I do think it is a fair question to ask whether Draymond Green can, with $27 million on his contract for next year, forget about being a starter, because I think it's growing more and more likely that he cannot be a starter. Can he even be on the team next year if that's going to be the number? Because as we've talked about nightly here on Dubs OT, the Warriors have to look to get better, and the means by which they can attempt to try were lessened by the Kuminga trade, because now Porzingis becomes a player that you would want in a perfect world to bring back, so you don't have the salary of a Kuminga to include in a trade. So now it really means that either Jimmy or Draymond have to be the salaries that you look to move. And I just can't get down with saying, hey, this team is good enough to where you're going to wait for Jimmy, you're going to keep Porzingis, even if you say you're going to keep Melton, but Draymond can just be a $27 million player, and also a $27 million player that is got a starting spot on scholarship. And I think, look, if the Warriors had better players on this team currently, and if they had even made the Porzingis trade and Jimmy and Steph had been healthy, I think maybe we were heading down a road where Draymond wasn't going to be a starter potentially even for this year. But I think it, and again, as I've said, and I've cautioned a lot, you don't want to be in a position where you're concerned about, you don't want to be in a position where you want to be able to have, you want to think that a guy's got the scholarship to just have the spot. And I think it could have been, had they had some other better players, we would already maybe be seeing it, but we're not as of yet, I think, because this team is so depleted. What now? You're going to tell Draymond he can't start for Malachi Leones? Like, what are you doing? Like, it's better to have that conversation next year when you have an Al Horford, you have a Porzingis, you have Jimmy potential, like you have better options. JC Mack in the YouTube chat, as we get back to it, more Kyle's clicks. Bigger question is if the Dubs have the balls to tell Draymond to take less and not start. Well, Draymond, again, it's a negotiation because Draymond has the ability to opt out. And here's the reality. Draymond can opt out and leave. And Draymond can opt out and leave. And it's not as if the Warriors, if Draymond opts out and leaves, are going to be under the salary cap to where they would have that $27 million to spend on another player. Like, they have the Draymond slot. And the Draymond slot is non-transferable. And sure, if Draymond were to leave in free agency, the money would come off the cap. But that doesn't mean the Warriors are suddenly, million. They aren't under the cap at that point. So it's not like you can go sign somebody else. Now, it may help them free up the non-taxpayer mid-level and that kind of a thing. But they are better off either trading him if he's going to opt in or getting that number down to make him be a player of a lesser role. So the Warriors don't have the full control, JC, in saying to Draymond, hey, this is the way it's going to be, my way or the highway, because he can take the highway. And if he takes the highway, the Warriors don't really have a means to use any of the savings in terms of the money that they would have because they would be so far over the cap. And Draymond also can play this out where he can say, he can make the Warriors think that he's going to opt out to the point where, if they make it too clear that they're looking to move him, then maybe he says, you know what, I'll opt out and I'll go take less and go play somewhere else. So it is a delicate situation and one of many now. When is the last time the Warriors have had this much of a roster influx? Honestly, heading into an offseason, it's been a while. They need to figure out Draymond. They need to decide if they're going to attempt to try to move Jimmy in his contract, which it sure as hell doesn't sound like they're willing to necessarily look to do that at this point. They have to figure out a means to clear up enough money to keep DeAnthony Melton. They've got to try to find a right number, preferably closer to the minimum for Kristaps Porzingis. They've got to try to convince Al Horford to come back and play. Like all of these, like they've got, they may have a lottery pick. We talked about Portland beating Minnesota tonight. So Portland now is 9th in the standings, which means the Warriors would go play the play-in game up at Moda Center in the 10-9 matchup. It also means the Warriors would have the 11th slot in the lottery and a better chance than Portland and a few other teams at the back end of the lottery to potentially move up should they not advance by winning multiple games and get into the playoffs. So there is a lot in flux. And if they end up with 11, do they keep the pick? Do they not? If they move up miraculously into the top 4, would they keep the pick then or not? All of those things, again, a roster, I think, in flux with a lot of decisions that aren't completely their decisions, where they control it, I think are in play as well. I want to get to one here, Kyle, that I have in the YouTube chat from Jokes on You. I want to bring this up, JD. Anyone see the final play of the first? Pods took the fadeaway three, and KP just stared at him. Maybe it's just not the fans who don't like him. There have been a couple of instances. This year where Pods has been checked or glared at by a teammate. And again, it's an end of the quarter situation where, Porzingis is open and it's like, bro, make the pass. Like, you don't have to take the hero shot at the end of every quarter. And I think that specifically has been something that we've seen between those two players already at least one other time. And so, I think that's another question, jokes on you, that I wanted to kind of relate back to what we're talking about the roster in flux. They got to figure out the Pods thing. They got to figure out what he's going to want. They got to figure out, how good they are as it relates to actually being able to carry him being on the roster. They need to evaluate the reality that he is just never going to be a guy that's any better than he really is right now. I think at least not on the Steph Curry timeline. I would give him the potential to maybe get better beyond the Steph years. But at this point, nobody should be given a rip about the beyond the Steph years. And so they got to figure out how big of a problem that stuff truly is in the locker room. Jokes on you. I agree with that. They got to figure out the money for him. What's it going to be? And it's a difficult situation because regardless of whether the Warriors do a contract extension with him or not, whether they wind up being too far apart and he wants $100 million and they want to offer him 60 or less than 60, whatever it is, he's like a $6 million player for next year. And so I think when you look at it, I've got the numbers right here. Brandon Podziemski, $5.6 million for next year. So I say all that because you can't exactly trade Brandon Podziemski for much of a player if he only makes $5.6 million. So in many ways, you might be stuck with him unless you're putting him with a Draymond, and then all of a sudden you're getting a $33 million player back. You're getting him with Draymond plus a draft pick or 2 or 3, and then maybe you're talking in terms of the types of players that you can potentially acquire from that point on. All right, let's keep it rolling here in the chat. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We'll do a few more chats here before the top of the hour. We'll take our next time out. Charles chiming in here. If Draymond opts in at $27 million, he should be traded for a salary dump. You got to trade him for a player, Charles. Can't trade him for a salary dump. You got to trade him for a player that can come back and help this team next year to a greater extent. The salary dump would actually be keeping him. The salary dump would be keeping him and letting his contract expire in the summer of 2027. And look, I have said it and I will continue to say it. You got to be careful at over evaluating to the negative on a lot of these players right now, given the way that a bunch of these nights are going to look because this Warriors team is so under-talented collectively. And I do think, Draymond, the decline is real. The motivation is lacking. And the whole thing looks exponentially worse because he's out there without Steph and Draymond. So I do think you have to factor that in. I do think you have to or he's out there without Steph and Jimmy, I should say. And I do think you have to factor that in with Podziemski, with any of the other, younger players, that maybe don't look as like you do have to. I'm not saying it changes your decision ultimately is what you do, but you do have to, at a minimum, factor it in. But it's not a salary dump for Draymond. It's a let's put Draymond with, like I said, a Podziemski and a pick or two, and see what kind of $33 to $35 million player you can bring back that can be that player that's maybe not Steph or Jimmy, but better than everybody else you have, even if you want to keep a bunch of the guys that you really like what they've been able to bring to the table here throughout the course of this season. All right, let's keep it rolling. Appreciate you, Charles. Mickey D, would a free agent want to come here as long as Draymond is? I don't think that matters. I don't think Draymond is preventing any free agents from coming. In fact, there may even be a few like LeBron who would prefer to come to the Warriors if Draymond is here. So I don't think that's an issue. Mickey D, appreciate it. Book of Barnett. I want to see Lacob replace Dunleavy and hire a new GM and coach. Yeah, I'm against that. Look, Dunleavy's not really running the operation. I mean, let's be honest. And it's not like Dunleavy has been this terrible GM. I think we have to be real about it. We have to keep it 100. Has Dunleavy been a bad GM? I don't think Dunleavy's been a bad GM. I think he's drafted some players in the second round that are pretty good players. He drafted Porzingis, who's a good player, maligned because he's not better. But let's be honest, he was the 19th pick in the freaking draft from Santa Clara. Like, again, I hate to keep having to be the guy that acts, that's like I'm defending Porzingis, because I don't think he will ever be great. In fact, I don't think he's ever going to be better than he is now. And what he is now is an incredibly frustrating player half the time. But I'm not looking at Porzingis like it's some albatross around Dunleavy and the job that he's done. And you're right, No Cap. GM doesn't matter because Joe's the GM. Absolutely. So I think Dunleavy's done fine. I'm not getting rid of Steve Kerr until we're beyond Steph. So, again, if you're saying tear it all down to the studs, then okay. Then maybe it is new GM. And I still don't think there'd be a new GM, by the way. But would it be, potentially a new coach post Steph, or if they go into more of a rebuild around Steph, then I think there would be a new coach. But a new coach ain't making this better. That's the one thing. Like, I'm going to say this once and for all, and you've heard me say it, but I'm going to kind of scream it. The try to make the most of Steph ain't getting better by getting rid of Kerr, right? Like, you get rid of Kerr when you're admitting that it's over, and you're doing a soft rebuild or a full rebuild. Like the moment you get rid of Steve Kerr, we're done talking about windows, and like, there is no world where Steve Kerr's not the coach and the Warriors are all of a sudden closer to winning a championship. Like, none. If anything, moving on from Kerr completely seals the deal and makes it to where that window is unable to be opened until there's a completely new core group of Warrior players that would be 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 50 freaking years away. Like, that's just so stop with this notion that getting a new coach and GM, if that's what you're saying, is going to save what's remaining of Steph's career and the potential to be a contender, because that ain't happening. All right, last one here before our next time out. Dunleavy inherited a dumpster fire. It was just smoldering when he got the job. And again, you can say what you want about the Jimmy trade. Like, the Jimmy trade was a good trade. It was a good trade. They didn't give up anything for Jimmy. They got Jimmy, and they were the 4th best team in the league for a year. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, what are we evaluating? Like, for those that think Dunleavy's done a terrible job, what are we evaluating that on? Like, he didn't draft Kuminga. He didn't tear Kuminga's value down to the point where they had to take a flyer on Porzingis, and that became the best move they could do. So I don't know. I'm interested. For those that think Dunleavy's got to go, tell me what he's specifically screwed up. And again, if you think Steve Kerr's got to go, again, you better also be saying it's time for this team to be the Sacramento Kings for 5-6 years, because that's really what you're saying. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back. We'll keep it rolling in the chat. We'll get our sounds at Dubs OT. Joseph Dicus at 8:30, 808 KMBR. Warriors lose to the Pistons 115-101. We're talking about it right here. It's Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no ball.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, into the 8 o'clock hour. It's Dubs OT with JD. Man, we got a lot of great chats to get to, which we will do coming up here. The best YouTube chat in sports. Warriors lose 115 to 101 tonight in Detroit. They were up 9 in the second quarter. They ended up down 24. Season-high turnovers. Nobody really other than L.J. Cryer played well. It was a particularly rough night for Draymond Green, a minus 15, and DeAnthony Melton, minus 21, after he scored the first 9 points of the game for the Warriors in this one. And Warriors now find themselves on to Atlanta, down to the ATL, where they will take on their former teammate in Jonathan Kuminga, who was resting up tonight as the Hawks went and lost for the first time in a long time as the Houston Rockets beat the Hawks tonight, 117-95, but Atlanta resting Kuminga, who has played now in, I think, 6 games. It's going to even up tomorrow. I had my number. Kuminga's now played 6 games out of a possible, 17 for the Hawks. Porzingis has actually played 7 out of 18 games since the trade deadline. The last 2 not particularly well, but of course that'll even up tomorrow. Porzingis will not play and Kuminga will. So it'll be 7 of 18 for Kuminga, 7 of 19 for Porzingis as he projects to not play tomorrow as the Warriors will play the 5th of this 6-game road trip. Portland won tonight at Minnesota, 108-104. So the Blazers have a 1.5 lead for the Warriors over the Warriors for the final play-in spot, the final 2 play-in spots, 9 and 10, which means the Warriors would be going to Portland on April the 15th in the 9-10 matchup. And again, Stephen Curry, the reevaluation date coming for him tomorrow. And again, I think Steph is expected to return at some point, barring a setback. Between Wednesday the 25th, which is 5 days away, I think that's probably going to be a little premature, and at some point April the 1st. But again, Warriors probably not going to be able to move up much in the play-in tournament standings, and certainly cannot at this stage, even if they were to lose out now with 12 games to go, would not be in a position to move out of the play-in tournament. But currently they have the 11th slot in the lottery, so the 11th best odds to get the number 1 pick or to move up into the top 4 in the lottery, which I need to double check this, Kyle. I said this a few nights ago. I believe the lottery's on Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, when it could potentially be a big day for the Warriors. And again, I believe it is on that Mother's Day Sunday while everybody's out celebrating mom or at brunch. Can the Warriors get a freaking ping pong ball go their way? Not that it necessarily would matter if you've watched the way the Warriors have drafted when they've had those lotto picks. But Mike Dunleavy, definitely not the same GM as Bob Myers. Charles, Warriors are great at second-round picks, but totally incompetent in the first round. Well, Wiseman would say yes. So would Kuminga and even Moses Moody, who's become a productive role player for them. When you could have had Şengün, you could have had Trey Murphy. Those examples specifically would favor your point there, Charles, and thanks for chiming in. I'm not going to throw Podziemski in there at 19 for the player that he's been. But again, I think we've seen what Podziemski is and can be. And I just don't think there's going to be much that can improve for Podziemski. And again, we were talking about it the first hour, the ugly nature of you had Porzingis end of the quarter, pick and pop's working for the Warriors, pick and pop into the quarter. Porzingis is open, get the big man, the rock, that's done a lot more than you have in your career, Brandon. And Podziemski wants to take that hero ball shot again, kind of like he did in New York. And Porzingis, they shook hands, but Porzingis kind of went over and checked him, like shook hands and was like, "Hey man, like, get me the rock." You know who I am. I don't want to go Kevin Durant on you, but you know who I am. I'm Kristaps Porzingis. Get me the rock at the top of the key, and so they're going to have to evaluate. And look, I've said it a lot. How I think the hate that Podziemski gets is probably it's probably too much, to be perfectly honest. But I do think the Warriors, to a certain extent, are going to have to examine. Is this guy well liked in the locker room? Is this guy, hated enough by the fan base to where he brings enough to the table to where it's truly worth keeping him around at the expense of maybe trying to include him in some kind of a deal that can bring back a player that can potentially help the roster, especially if the player, and I do think Podziemski has value around the league. I think there's a lot of teams that would love to have a Brandon Podziemski. Again, teams with more talent that wouldn't necessarily expect Podziemski in the immediate to have to do as much as, unfortunately, the Warriors are asking him to do. And here's the other thing, which we've talked about a ton before we get to our Sounds at Dubs OT. Podziemski's got the Kuminga thing. Like, he does. Like, Podziemski thinks he's better than he is, just like Kuminga did with the Warriors. I mean, they are very similar. And the Kuminga stands don't like to hear that. And I don't think Podziemski stands exist necessarily, but like they both, their biggest flaw is that they both think they're better than they are. Like, and now Podziemski still was able to do things within the Warrior system to help him win much more consistently. And again, he's a guard and a ball handler on a team that lacks those. So he gets more chances, I think, and got more chances based on the position that he played. And the fact that the Warriors didn't have other players that played that position that could take up the slack. Again, a roster building issue, but both of those dudes' biggest flaw is they need to put their game in a little bit more of a freaking box than they've been willing to do so to this point in their careers. And we've seen, Kuminga obviously more willing to do that going to the Hawks, where he's been successful in the 4 of the 6 games that he's played to this point. All right, let's get our Sounds at Dubs OT here before we continue on in the YouTube chat. A couple from Kurt tonight and a couple from the locker room. Kristaps Porzingis, who left with some lower back stiffness. First, though, from Steve addressing Porzingis and what kept him out of the second half.
Word on Kristaps.
Not yet.
Did you see him post game?
I saw him. He said it was his back had started to tighten up, and then there was the play where the ball was deflected off his hand. He got a little push in the back, and that aggravated it a little bit. But I don't know anything beyond that.
Moving around, though, right?
I mean, he was walking, but we don't know about tomorrow.
Yeah, again, I don't think he's playing tomorrow. But the one thing that is true is the game did change after Porzingis went out. And again, coincidence potentially, but the Warriors were up 9 and the Pistons were in the midst of their comeback to take over the game at that point. But what did the head coach think of the game changing in the Pistons' favor following Porzingis heading to the bench and then subsequently the locker room?
The game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I thought we were hanging in there. The first half, when he went out, obviously to take away our space 5 against a great defensive team, it was going to be hard to find openings. Yeah, second half just got away from us, turned us over. Thompson was fantastic on the ball, just a wrecking crew out there. Yeah, it was disappointing because I felt good coming into the game. I didn't think we made good decisions early, and it kind of set a tone. But we were playing pretty well. We were knocking down some shots and doing some good things, but we just set a poor tone with the turnovers, and that really got away from us in the second half.
Yeah, the bad decisions early, a lot of that was Draymond. A lot of that was some bad passes. There were some Podziemski there was a couple turnovers. Melton had a couple early Gee, and it just was kind of going to be one of those nights, unfortunately. For the Warriors, and the Pistons have the size, the Pistons have the physicality. Again, the Pistons didn't have their best player tonight, which I thought was going to keep the door open to this game potentially being more competitive than you would have anticipated as the Warriors start to get on here on this trip. But No, the Pistons were able to kind of flip the switch and impose their will at the level to which they could take control of the game, really in the final minutes of the second quarter and then throughout the entire second half. It never felt, once the Warriors got down in the third quarter tonight, as if they were going to be able to get off the mat. Down 7 after being up 9, and immediately it's 14, and then it's 18, and then it's 19 at that point in the third quarter. Wound up being 14 going to the fourth, but it was over at that point. Nothing really to watch. Not a lot of notes on the old JD notepad in the fourth quarter of this one. All right, let's continue here in our Sounds of Dubs OT as the Warriors lose this game to the Pistons, 115-101. Couple from Kristaps Porzingis. Here he is talking about a history of back problems, but it doesn't sound like he thinks that this is going to be anything that should be too long term.
Have you had back issues before?
Early in my career a little bit, but honestly, I'm pretty good at managing and keeping the back strong. So I'm sure I'll go away pretty quickly.
How are you feeling right now?
Feeling all right, a little tight now. So also once I cool down, it tightened up even more. But I'm sure I'll get it going soon.
All right, so get him stretched out. Give him the night off. Again, he wasn't playing tomorrow anyway. So get him stretched out. Get him ready to play in Dallas as the Porzingis former team tour continues here on this trip. We were talking about it, the Knicks and the Wizards and the Celtics and the Hawks. He's not going to play tomorrow. And then Dallas, 5 of the 6 teams in this trip Porzingis has suited up for throughout the course of his NBA career. So at this point, and again, he has not played well tonight, kind of a waste in 11 minutes. He's not played well the last 2 games. I thought, other than a couple of blocks early in the game against Boston, he didn't play well in Beantown against his former team. So to me, get it to a point where, all right, you're on the road, you get him stretched out, you give him the night in Atlanta, you get to Dallas, you're coming home. He didn't play much tonight, so it's basically, give him Saturday, give him Sunday, get him locked in for Monday night. That's a late tip in Dallas, 8:30 Central, 6:30 Pacific, and let's see if he can run the table here as far as playing, Monday night, Wednesday night back home, Friday night at home, Sunday night in Denver with the travel, and then you get a couple of nights off. I think a win here for Porzingis in terms of the availability and the durability would be, let's see if he can play these next 5 games, basically. Let's get him out there and see if he can play Dallas, play the 2 home games, play Denver, and then move from there. Play the first game of the 2, but where they host San Antonio and Cleveland at the beginning of April, and then you get into back-to-backs and the like. So you want to give him a little bit of a break before you ramp up for the final week of the season and eventually the play-in tournament. All right, one more for Porzingis. This via Anthony Slater of ESPN, so courtesy to him on the audio, which we're playing here. Is Kristaps going to play tomorrow night? Let's just get that out of the way.
Do you feel like, tomorrow you might not have played anyways back-to-back. Do you feel like you'll play sit tomorrow?
Probably. We'll see. Maybe it loosens up tomorrow, and who knows. But right now it's pretty stiff.
Yeah, he's not playing tomorrow, and he shouldn't play tomorrow. Again, you pick between the 2 ahead of time. Did you want to play him? And I think the Warriors are probably trying not to make tomorrow this showdown game. Like, it can be that for Kuminga in his head. It can be that for the Hawks guys. It can be that for the 5 people on social media that think it truly matters. Like, it can be the game of the year in the NBA for that extreme minority. But I think the Warriors are not trying at this point, especially considering where they're at in the standings, trying to put more on tomorrow and it being some kind of showdown game than it actually is. Again, that's a party of one tomorrow night in the ATL. All right, that's our Sounds of Dubs OT. Let's continue on here in the YouTube chat as we roll through here on the Sports Leader. JC Mack is pod stat padding for his contract. He's been stealing rebounds from big guys, shooting bad shots, trying to play hero ball. i.e. into the Rockets in regulation with Al and the 3 versus the Knicks. I don't know that stat padding. I would say more potentially. I would say more potentially with the rebounding than the shot. I just think some of the shots he's taking, honestly, he sees a void with Steph and Jimmy out, and I think he's trying too hard to fill that void as far as trying to be a guy who can step up and be a lead dog in terms of scoring. I don't think it's stat padding. I think it's just trying too hard to be somebody that you're not, because he feels like this is an opportunity to do it. As he said, the injuries are opportunities, right? Going back to kind of one of his more recent infamous quotes that he had in the post game when the Warriors were back at home. But the hero ball has been brutal at the end of quarters. I mean, he's taken some of these shots like he thinks he's Jalen Brunson. I mean, seriously, it's like, bro, just run the play. And if you can get the ball to somebody else at the top of the key, if you get the ball to Horford or to Porzingis, they need to take the shot, not you. And again, I didn't think it was as bad tonight, the shot that he took, as the one in New York. And you can go back and check the tape. I thought the one in New York was brutal, 1-point game. I completely disagree with Steve Kerr, who said he loved it. He's trying to instill confidence in a young player, I'm sure. But I hated that shot. In that, run a freaking play, get something better than that. Drive if you're gonna, get into the paint, kick it out, swing the ball. If you get it back, then you shoot it. I hated that shot. But the hero ball thing ain't it as it relates. But no, I don't think he's stat padding. Again, on the shot selection, maybe on the rebounds. I think you could definitely question that. Max Lopez, there's really not much that can be done when you look at it besides moving Jimmy, and they aren't going to do that. Well, you move Draymond, and you can move picks. So I do push back on that. You can move Pods, you can move Moody, you can move others. You can do it if you really want to try to do it. You can do it, Max. I'm not. That's the one thing where, I will come down Dunleavy's road. And I don't know whether he's able to come up with some creative ideas that get shot down by the, Joe or Kirk or whoever. But, come up with some creative options, because there are creative things that can be done. So I'm not, you're not going to get there's just not much they can do. There's just not much they can do. No, you look to move Jimmy, and then you look to move Draymond, and then you look to move Pods and Moody, and you look to move everybody that you freaking can, and you be open-minded to moving those draft picks, including one that might be 11 overall. Because I'm going to tell you another thing. If they wind up with the 11th pick, now look, if they end up not making the playoffs and they're in the lottery and they get in the top 4, if they get in the top 4, I'm actually going to say 3. Because I think there's 3 no-brainers, and then it gets a little murkier. But I think there are 3 players that could come on and come right on the Warriors and play next year. They get into the top 3 miraculously, then I'm okay with them keeping the pick. I'm going to say that right now. I'm going to say that probably 500,000 times between, in the next three months. But if you get 11 and you keep the pick, the dude that you pick better be really good and playing 25 minutes a night and in your rotation and one of your 4 or 5 best players. If you're going to make that pick, the dude, if you end up with the 11th pick in the draft, you better, I don't care who you pick, and we're way too far away to get into the names of the guys that would be. And I'm probably not even going to do that until we know when it is. We're not going to do that till probably the lottery, as far as I'm concerned. You got to know where your pick is before you start truly breaking down the actual names. But that being said, I mean, you wind up with 11 and you keep the pick. The dude you pick better be your 3rd or your 4th best player immediately. And if he's not, you should have traded the pick. and other stuff to bring that guy back. It is going to be a very simple, I'll give my opinion. What I think doesn't matter. What the Warriors ultimately do is what matters. And if they keep the pick and it's some freaking project, then we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a big time problem because we're not doing the Kuminga thing again, where they take somebody and it's like, oh my God, this guy's awesome. And everybody thinks he's awesome. And then he's really not that awesome. And everybody wants him to play and he's not that good. And then why isn't he playing? And it's Kerr's fault. And he can't play talented young player. If that's what it's going to be, you trade him. Point blank, bottom line, end of story. And if you keep that, I'm telling you, y'all are getting eviscerated by me if you keep that pick. And that pick can't play. So it better be, if you keep that pick, he better be rookie to year 2 Halliburton. He didn't have to be year 3, year 4 Halliburton, but he better be year 1, year 2 Halliburton, where he's playing and helping you. All right, let's keep it moving here. Their perennial play-in team or worse for a while. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Again, we shall see. There are moves to be made. I got a couple here that I bookmarked, Kyle. I'm going back from earlier. Another Kyle McKiernan. Warriors were done 3 years ago. It is what it is. I've been saying it for this long. Love the run. It was incredible. I think a lot of people are kind of feeling that way. I don't disagree. Y'all still want to sign these limited and restricted players? I don't think they have a choice. Again, you got to try. Gene chiming in on Porzingis. I saw the play. Porzingis got hit in the back, but I didn't think it was bad. He may be made of glass. Yeah, I actually don't think it's that. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it, but he wasn't playing tomorrow anyway. He may be made of glass, Gene, but I don't think that was anything serious. I really don't. Florida Dubs fan, before this game tonight, Dubs were gung-ho on signing KP for another year, but the injury might have made them think twice. I just don't know what the money is going to be. And I look, if you're telling me Porzingis is going to be in the $3 to $5 million range, he could not play another second this season, and I'd still sign him. He'd be another. He cannot play another second. If you're telling me you get him for $3 million a year, 3 point whatever, 5 point whatever, whatever his minimum winds up being. Melton the same as Draymond tonight, 4 turnovers from Sleepy Noid, and then Mickey D. If Porzingis is out for any length of time, it defeats the purpose of bringing Curry back. That is a point that we had not necessarily gotten into. I think that's fair. But I don't think he is going to be out for a significant amount of time. And again, that's a fair thing to question, but I think Steph's coming back regardless. Steph's coming back regardless as well. So 808 KMBR. Mickey D. Cade's replacement. Better than any of our guards. Yeah, no doubt. That's true. That is a really good point. Dayson Jenkins out there with 22 on 7 to 12 and getting to the free throw line with 8 assists. Yeah, he's better than Brandon Pajewski. Not kidding. Not kidding. And then Pat H. The Warriors can't be serious about bringing back Porzingis. He can't be trusted in the last years of Curry. It all depends on the money. Again, he's going to go from a 30, we're right back to it, right? We're trying to do the spectrum of how much is he going to make? He's making 30 point whatever this year. Well, he ain't sniffing that next year. Is it half? I mean, I don't even think it was half when he was playing well there for 4 games, meaning 15 million. Is it 10? I think he's a minimum player. I think right now, again, I'm right back to where I was a few games ago. I think he is a veteran minimum to $5 million a year player. And I think that I don't know that there's much that he can do to really make it where other teams are going to want him for more than that. Like, what would there has to be a market, right? It's like the old, for there to be a demand, there has to be demand. Like, for his number to get beyond the minimum, there has to be teams that are willing to pay him $10, $15 million a year, which I just, again, maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. So to me, again, it's more of a value play. And it's also, here's the other thing it is, Pat. It's also a situation where if the Warriors move on from Porzingis, again, that doesn't free up $30 million for them to use on somebody else. It's kind of like the Draymond thing earlier. It's like you either use it for Draymond or you trade him or you lose him for nothing. And it's kind of the same thing. You either bring him back at a reduced rate significantly, maybe like 10% of what his rate is now, or you lose him for nothing and you can't replace him because you don't get to use that salary in other ways. So for that purpose, I would say you just wind up keeping him. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR, we're going to be joined by Joseph Dickinson of the Mercury News from Detroit as the Warriors lose this one 115-101. Brief chat with Joseph. Then we'll get into our fun with numbers, and we'll look around the league a little bit, some NBA scores, and kind of reset the standings and just where things sit here through the weekend, and get you caught up on all of that as well as our final installment of Kyle's Clicks. But Joseph Dickinson coming up next right here. Dubs OT with JD. Warriors lose to the Pistons, and we're all over it. We're talking about it on the Sports Leader.
Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
All right, welcome back. Final segment. Warriors lose 115-101 in Detroit. So they are 1-3 on the 6-game road trip from Detroit to Atlanta, then Dallas before they return home to close out the trip. Who's going to be available for the Warriors tomorrow night in Atlanta? We'll find out maybe a little bit of that from our guy Joseph Dickinson of the Mercury News, who joins us right now here on the UMA guest line on The Sports Leader. Joseph, how are you tonight?
I am doing well. And I also would like to know the answer to the question of how many Warriors are going to be available tomorrow. I'm pretty sure Draymond Green will. Steve Kerr said the reason he didn't play in the fourth quarter was because he wanted to save Draymond for tomorrow, with the game kind of out of hand. But Porzingis, not looking good.
No, and I don't think Porzingis was probably going to play anyway tomorrow. In Atlanta, but with the back, I mean, it doesn't. Well, let's just start there. I mean, we played some of the audio of you guys in the locker room talking to Kristaps, but what's the sense? It seems like it's not too serious. Is that your sense from being on the scene there, that this lower back thing is, maybe a couple of days as opposed to something that might linger beyond that? Or are we at the point with Porzingis where you don't want to rule anything out in terms of extended absence?
I think it might be the latter. I mean, he's had such a track record of injuries, and the thing is with a back, you never know with that, right? Like a back injury could linger, maybe could not. But I mean, Kristaps even said he might feel fine now, but once he's not as warm anymore, and later in the night, maybe it starts tightening it up. Steve, before the game, didn't rule out playing Kristaps both sides of the back-to-back now. I mean, Kristaps said, maybe I could still play if I feel better tomorrow. He's not going to play. Everything with this team, around this team, has shown Kristaps Porzingis will not play tomorrow. And there's a good chance he won't play in Dallas either.
How did Guy Santos come out of the game? He was looking really banged up from the shots that we were seeing, riding the bike, and he had a heating pad on, and it looked like he had an ice pack next to the heating pad, and he ended up playing 30 minutes. I know, at one point he went to the locker room, but he ended up playing 30 minutes. So any word on him?
I mean, we talked to him post game. He seemed to be fine. I mean, in terms of healthy Warriors, he's about as healthy as they come, and he's played some insane minutes in the last 2-3 weeks, and he's about the only guy on the roster who's capable of playing on the wing at this point. I'm sure he'll be out there again tomorrow to try to defend Jonathan Kuminga. But yeah, it's kind of I told Kenzo Fukuda of Clutch Points, it's kind of a negative feedback loop. A guy gets hurt, so then more guys have to play more minutes, and then that wears on them, and if one of them goes down, then other people have to pick up the slack, and it's a negative domino effect. And that's kind of what we're seeing with this Warriors team. You're just asking guys who aren't used to playing that many minutes, playing extensive minutes right now. And there's really nothing the team can do because everyone's hurt.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of why I asked about Guy specifically, is because he has been playing far more, even as a younger player. He's been playing far more minutes than I think anybody would have anticipated that he would have had to, or that you would necessarily even want to in a perfect role for him. We're talking with Joseph Dickinson here of the Mercury News from Detroit. Warriors lose 115-101 to the Pistons, so they're 1-3 on the road trip. Atlanta tomorrow. The Hawks resting up Jonathan Kuminga tonight as they saw their 11-game winning streak come to an end in Houston. So both teams on the back-to-back. Has there been any discussion in the time on the road among the team, or has it been a media conversation as far as like questions asked to players? Are you working on something, Joseph? You want to tease about the big Kuminga, revenge game that I think is probably only a big game for him and maybe his fans?
It's very much I'll tell you right now, I'm not working on anything aside from what happens in the game. I mean, with the way Jonathan has, he's been managing his knee injury as well. We weren't even sure if he was going to play tomorrow. We're still not sure if he's going to play tomorrow. I would assume that he will, having set out the first leg of a back-to-back and them being at home. But no, I haven't really talked about Jonathan with any of the players, or they haven't really brought him up. I think everyone's just, for the most part, I think everyone's moved on from John Kuminga era, and right now they're just focused on I would say making the play-in, but as we talked about a few days ago, they're going to make the play-in even if they, despite their best efforts to lose all these games, they're still making the play-in.
It's time to start booking that flight for April 14th up to Portland, Joseph.
Although I do believe I believe Portland won today, and they might have moved past the Clippers at this point for the 8th seed.
Yeah, they did win, and I know it's close. Let me look at it. Let me find it here. I had it here on a different tab. They did win tonight, so they've won a couple in a row now. So they have now moved in front of the Clippers, who have lost 4 in a row. So yeah, 35 and 36. So the Warriors should be going to Inglewood. So book them both. That's what I do. Book them both.
The darndest thing, where they end the regular season at is
Inglewood
at the Clippers on April 12th. So we may just be like, you might call the hotel and say, hey, we need to extend the stay a little bit more at one of these hotels right by LAX, because Inglewood's only like a 10-minute drive from the airport. But one other quick thing is that DeAnthony Melton, Steve mentioned that maybe he could play both legs of a back-to-back. You never know. I mean, he seemed on track to, I believe it was the Utah-Chicago back-to-back, and then came up with an injury. The Warriors just need to get through this road trip. Honestly, they are so beat up. Their center rotation right now, if Quentin Post isn't able to play, is, I guess, and Malafy, he had his wrist wrapped up. He looked like he was somewhat okay, but he really wasn't using it in the locker room post game. If he's not able to go, their center rotation is, I guess, Draymond, Omer Yurtseven, and Guy Santos. I don't know. I mean, their big man rotation is just so thin, so thin. That's the entire team, though. There's no depth.
No, they are right now in a major way. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, as it relates to just tonight, there were the cameras that caught end of the first quarter, where Podziemski took the three, and they've been running a lot of pick and pop, and Porzingis was open at the top, and Podziemski took the three. And then Porzingis walked over, and they shook hands, and it looked, on the one hand, like Porzingis was kind of checking him, and on the other hand, it seemed pretty amicable, just like two teammates having a conversation. But it looked as if Porzingis was saying, "Hey, bro, get the ball back to me." Was there any discussion post game in Detroit about that sequence?
No, I only saw that after all the press conferences, just kind of scrolling Twitter as one does. No, and I would say from what I saw, that happens that has happened a million times in thousands of basketball games. I wouldn't read anything into it. I mean, I'm sure Kristaps in the moment was kind of annoyed. Oh, give me the ball, come on, he's open. But again, that's happened so many times a game. There's such a microscope on Brandon Podziemski, because a litany of reasons, factors, whatever you can call them, that I'm sure you have discussed ad nauseum throughout the season. And so, that happens. That happens. Let's say between Guy Santos and Pat Spencer. I don't think that is something people are going to notice or latch onto if it's those guys compared to, okay, it's Brandon and it's Kristaps Porzingis, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, is there animosity or something? I wouldn't read anything into it.
Do you get the sense, and this is do you get the sense that players like playing with Podziemski? I don't want to necessarily infer that they don't, but do you get he's obviously such a polarizing player among the fans, and we definitely spend a lot of time talking about him on the shows. He's very confident in his own abilities, I think maybe to a fault at times, but do you get a sense that the players in that Warrior locker room enjoy playing with him?
I would say so. I mean, the thing about Podziemski is that when the shot's not falling, it's ugly. It just doesn't look good. We all know this, but he sets screens for teammates. He's diving for loose balls. He's making rotations defensively. Even if he's not the greatest defender in the world, he's still trying on defense. He's making the extra pass. He's doing all the things that a good teammate would. It's just, he's not the most natural scorer in the world. And when he's hitting that pull-up three or those off the catch in the corner threes, it looks great. And when it's not, it's him pump faking 5, 6, 7 times, and then shot clock running down, he's passing it out. Or I think that's what fans see a lot more than the nice little extra pass to the corner, or he set a screen for someone that got him open for a layup. But yeah, I would say players on the Warriors are fine with playing with Brandon Podziemski.
Well, Joseph, we appreciate the time again from Detroit tonight, and obviously Boston on Wednesday, and in DC on Monday night as well. Following those games, big thanks to you throughout the week. Really appreciate it, and enjoy your travel tomorrow to Atlanta, and we'll talk to you again here soon.
Yeah, hopefully I survive TSA. I'm more concerned about the flight out of Atlanta. I've heard the Atlanta Airport TSA is a pretty gnarly place right now, so who knows? Maybe I'll be braving it after a Warriors win, but we'll see.
Thanks, Joseph. Have a great night. Be safe.
Thank you.
All right, Joseph Dickinson of the Mercury News joining us here on the Sports Leader. It's Dubs OT with JD. Great to get a little perspective from those on the scene the last couple of nights here with this lengthy road trip, and obviously doing a little Dubs OT here, getting you up until 9 o'clock, not only tonight, but Wednesday and on Monday as well. And should let everybody know also we'll be back tomorrow with Just Dubs, 10 a.m., just a 1-hour edition, 10 until 11 before Giants baseball. Giants baseball an hour earlier as they're about to break camp and head for Northern California tomorrow. And, of course, the Giants opener, which is coming up on Wednesday against the Yankees. We're going to be all over that here on the Sports Leader. So 1-hour edition of Just Dubs tomorrow. Join myself and Kyle Haar for that. And then we are back a 5 o'clock tip tomorrow night in the ATL, the Warriors and the Hawks. So we'll be with you right about 7:30, and then back on Monday. But Monday and Wednesday, because of the Giants schedule next week, are going to be YouTube onlys from the home studio on Monday night, following the Warriors and the Mavs to close out the 6-game trip. So Kyle and I will have you covered there. Maybe a Greg Silver appearance on that night. We'll have to check and see, and then we'll be back following the Warriors and the Brooklyn Nets from Harmonic in Thrive City on Wednesday, as the Warriors take on the Nets for the little 2-game roadie, Brooklyn, Washington, and then off to Denver. And good looking out by Joseph here. I'm ready to book that flight to Portland. It's like, wait a minute, JD, it might actually still be the Clippers, which I had kind of written off, to be honest. but the Clippers have lost 4 in a row, and so you have to reevaluate. Although getting to LA obviously wouldn't be all that difficult, even with some short notice, as all these teams kind of battle it out. All right, let's continue here with our Kyle's clicks, and I put a bunch of them on the board here. So Kyle, we're going to have to all the ones you marked, I threw up there while we were talking to Joseph. John Jay playing Podsmond at 20 minutes is tanking, and it should be investigated by the NBA. I mean, it on the nights where they don't play well, it is really bad right now for Draymond and for Brandon Podziemski. Let's keep it rolling here. Porzingis couldn't slap on an icy hot patch. Better stock up on him, buddy. Thank you for that one. I mean, what's the point of Porzingis coming back on a night like tonight? I hate to be so blunt about it, but I think that's just where things sit. Thank you, Papusa. I think Jacob Evans and Eric Paschall are available too. From Max Lopez. By the way, all three of these could be qualifiers for our Dubs OT comment of the night. I'm not going to lie, Kyle. I mean, all three of them really, really could be. So I hope you've got a real good one in store. We've gone from watching the Lakers to watching Portland, JC Mack, to watching the Clippers now also. As far as where are they going to end up shaking out. They've been playing without Kawhi of late, so they've dropped 4 in a row. And yeah, Portland could find themselves. It's only revenge if Kerr suits up. That's another good one. Regulator. Well, Kerr might have to at this point, although they're more depleted in terms of bigs and wings at this point than they are on the guard line. But that's a good call, Regulator. All right, let's dig 'em. Warriors ducking JK, LMAO. I kid. Yeah, look, it's like I said, it's a one-sided fight. I think, although interesting. I mean, we hear from Joseph there that Draymond's planning on playing. I went Ricky Waters on that one. Draymond's looking at playing for who, for what? That's a vintage Ricky Waters quote from back probably before Kyle was born. All right, let's get to our comment of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
JC Mack all lining up for a thank you Warriors chant in Atlanta. Yeah, no doubt. It really truly is. So we'll see. We'll talk obviously a lot about Kuminga tomorrow. I know there was the report out that the Hawks are interested. I wonder where that came from, by the way. I wonder who leaked that the Hawks might be interested in tearing up his contract and doing a new contract, a long-term contract with Kuminga. I wonder who leaked that, Aaron Turner. I wonder who would, in the days leading up to the showdown in Atlanta. Although again, if the Hawks do want to keep him, he is an unrestricted free agent. So if the Hawks are truly interested in keeping him, there is a little bit of an onus on maybe potentially looking to redo that deal to where he would be under control moving forward. All right, let's get some fun with numbers and close up shop here on this Friday.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on KNBR.com and the KNBR app.
All right, Warriors 2 in a row in the loss column, 1-3 in the trip. 6-game trip concludes with games at Atlanta tomorrow and also Dallas coming up on Monday. Warriors only with a couple of road games left after this trip. It's going to be 7 of the final 10 for the Warriors are going to be at home. The Pistons sweep the season series against the Dubs. Warriors used the same starting lineup in 2 consecutive games for the first time in 13 games. They had been running the total up in terms of different lineups tonight. Warriors had 6 players in double figures. Again, Porzingis leads the team with 15. Too many nights this year where the team lead is in the teens. I will say that. Melton had 14, but a lot of turnovers. Payton with 14. Gee with 13. And we talked about the Blazers who won at Minnesota, which moves them into the 8th seed in the Western Conference, drops the Clippers down to 9. So Clippers and Warriors potential 9-10 matchup now is in play with the Warriors going down to Inglewood to take on the Clippers on April the 15th. So Clippers, Portland, Clippers, that's going to be a battle here, I think, over the course of the next couple of weeks to see where ultimately that 9-10 play-in game will be played. All right, that's going to do it for us. Kyle, big thanks to you, my friend. Thank you so much for all of the hard work throughout the course of the week. This has been a tough stretch and truly one for the sickos on this road trip now as we're 4 deep. We'll get to the 5th game tomorrow, and we got a big day tomorrow with just Dubs and Dubs OT. So thanks to you, my friend, and let everybody know who else we need to thank for doing the heavy lifting back there in Daly City.
You know him. You love him. Kyle Chung.
Kyle Chung tonight. I thought you said Kyle Chung was in tonight, and I immediately said, well, we're looking at an upset. And then all of a sudden, the Warriors are up 9 in the second quarter, and he must have just taken a powder the rest of the night. Yeah, out to North Beach.
He may have pulled a hammy or something.
Yeah, he got some back stiffness, and he decided, I'm done. I'm going to North Beach. I'm going to call in Jordo and let her take over for the rest of the night, because that is not good for Kyle Chung's plus minus tonight. So for the Kyles and everybody in the chat, the callers, the texters, we're back tomorrow 10 until 11, and then after the Warriors take on the Hawks. Dubs OT with JD. Warriors lose to the Pistons, but we're here. We're still talking about it on the Sports Leader. Good night.
John Dickinson.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!